too for inviting.
Of course, it's really great to have you here to present the project documenting a 20th century wooden vessel at risk, the Agios Spyridон. And Kωνσταντίνος Νικολάου is a maritime archaeologist from Cyprus, and today he's going to talk to us about this project that they did to preserve this wooden traditional vessel in Cyprus. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for the invitation. I have to first say that this project is a teamwork, and we will see during the presentation all of the participants. Many thanks, first of all, to my colleague Irini Katsuri and Massimiliano Sesi for the help on the presentation preparation. Well, now about the project. Άγιος Σπυρίδων has been one of the last larger wooden fishing vessels in Cyprus. It was a 24 meters long wooden vessel built in 1950 in Crete. It was registered in Cyprus in 1954 and operated as a fishing trawler until 2004 when it was withdrawn. It belonged to the type known as Karavoskaro, a type that constitutes one of the larger types of vessels in the Aegean, and its length overall could reach the 50 meters. It has been the main type of the big sailing vessels used during the 19th century and was most probably developed from Western Mediterranean traditions. Its characteristic features were the ellipsoid shape of the stern, the composite shape of the stem post, convex at the lower part and concave at the top, and a mild shear, almost straight. The rudder was under the stern and passed through the stern post and the hull. For the construction of Karavoskara, a lofting process was used and most probably introduced in the Aegean shipyards at the earliest in the late 18th century, while they were used as merchant and as fishing vessels. In our days, Karavoskara became one of the rarest types of vessels, and in Cyprus, Άγιος Σπυρίδων was the only one in its original condition and with its original equipment. It was propelled by a diesel 8-cylinder Kelvin engine and rigged with 2 masts used only for fishing purposes. Άγιος Σπυρίδων was imported in 1954 in order to be used as a trawler, more specifically as a vessel that fishes by pulling nets on the bottom of the sea, and changed owner at least 3 times. Originally, the vessel owned by fishermen from Ormidia, a fishing village in Larnaca, the south part of the island. Here there is a photo of 1950 in Larnaca Bay, as well as a photo, as a documented photograph of Άγιος Σπυρίδων deck at the late 50s or early 60s with its crew having lunch. In 1989, the vessel was sold to a company established by local fishermen in Paphos, a town at the western area of the island, where it has been docked until it's withdrawn in 2004. Extensive repairs were carried out in the late 1990s at the shipyard in the Greek island of Kalimnos. During the repairs, the whole bow was replaced, where also the bowsprit of the vessel was permanently removed. You can see it here. During the presence of the vessel in Cyprus, it was operating at the coast of the island, but also at the near Mediterranean, and mainly at the coast of Libya and Egypt. The in 2004, after 50 years of constant use, Agios Spyridон was withdrawn under a European program for fisheries protection by the Cypriot Department of Fisheries and Marine Research. After its withdrawal, the vessel was still docked in the harbor of Paphos for some months, and then was moved to Lachi Marina at Polis Chrysochous on the northwestern coast of Cyprus. The municipal council of the town decided to preserve the vessel as a monument of the local cultural heritage, as it was a well-known vessel of the area, and kept it dry docked outside the marina, fully rigged and equipped, sitting on concrete blocks and supported on its sides with beams. You can see it here. The vessel was exposed to the elements, and as a result, the deterioration of the entire structure was a matter of time. In 2006, the municipal council asked for help from Dr. Kostas Damianidis, architecture and specialist in vernacular vessels, in order to maintain and manage the vessel's preservation. This plan, however, was never materialized, and the vessel had remained out of the sea for 15 years without any maintenance. In 2016, for the first time, the Maritime Archaeological Research Laboratory of the University of Cyprus contacted the mayor of Polis Chrysochous in order to put pressure towards the preservation of the vessel, as it had been seriously deteriorated. However, in November 2017, the municipal council decided that the vessel should be immediately destroyed for safety and aesthetic reasons. And despite all efforts to the contrary, the loss of the monument was unavoidable. Under this pressure, and in order to gain time for finding the best possible solution, Marelab proceeded to a rescue mission in spring 2018 in order to save as much possible through documentation. Thus, in collaboration with the Cyprus Institute, the vessel was documented with digital and conventional methods. In this context, the shipbuilding lines were recorded, a 3D model was produced with laser scanning and a drone, whereas a photogrammetric recording was done for all the accessible parts of the vessel. The digital model of the vessel was published on the website of the Cyprus Institute, Ephemera. During this first rescue mission, several items and tools of the vessel were transferred to the university warehouses with the help of the Department of Fisheries and Marine Research and the municipality of Polis Chrysochous. At the same time, a postponement of the implementation of the municipal council's decision was requested by the Marelab, and put significant effort to raise funding for the vessel's protection. As all the efforts had no results, a controlled destruction program was deemed the next best option. Then a proposal for funding controlled destruction, the first of its kind project in the Eastern Mediterranean, was submitted to the Honor Frost Foundation in September 2019, which has been accepted for 28 and 200,000 euros. The municipality of Polis Chrysochous financially supported the program with 5,000 euros, while the Cypriot Department of Fisheries and Marine Research took over partly transportation of the vessel's parts from Polis Chrysochous to the University of Cyprus in Nicosia. The aim of the project was to document in detail Άγιος Σπυρίδων in order to place the vessel in its historical, ethnological, and archaeological context, and thus to contribute to the study of the traditional fishing trawlers in Eastern Mediterranean. The objectives of the project were first to preserve the structural, morphological, and technological characteristics of the wooden vessel through digital documentation. Second, to contribute to the development of shipbuilding studies in the Eastern Mediterranean through the study of Άγιος Σπυρίδων. Third, to preserve parts of the vessel for study, enhancing education and training on ship and shipbuilding on the island, and develop the infrastructure for an exhibition place. Last, raising awareness in relation with the local nautical heritage and the wooden vessels protection. For the program, Dr. Stella Demestiha had the general scientific supervision of the project, whereas Dr. Kostas Damianidis participated as well as a scientific supervisor. Kωνσταντίνος Νικολάου has been the field director of the program. Irini Katsuri undertook the photogrammetric recording with the help of Dr. Massimiliano Sessi, while the master student Georgia Kyriakou and George Nicolaou, a volunteer from the Department of Electrical Engineering, participated as well. Dr. Kostas Damianidis and his team, George Zavaras and Achilles Damianidis, undertook the measurements for the architectural plans. Marina Faka and Dr. Tande Abate from the Cyprus Institute performed additional scans with laser scanning. The technical part of the field work was undertaken by the company Blue Line Shipbuilders, owned by the brothers Raimon, Marios, and George Parpour, one of the oldest shipwrights family in Cyprus with Lebanese origin. The main phases of the program were four. Phase A, which included the field work and took place between November 28 and December 12 in 2019. Phase B, which included promotion and education on the project material and took place between February and December 2020. Phase C, which included digital data processing and the completion of the architectural plans, and took place between February and August 2020. And last, Phase D, which included the transport, maintenance, and storage of the selected parts of the vessel, which began in December 2020, and it's still on process. During Phase A, the vessel was basically deconstructed and its different components were recorded as they were gradually revealed. The field work plan was built around four main factors. First was the safety of the participants, as they had to work in a constantly changing construction site environment. Second, it was essential to achieve optimal results in the making of the recording, both in terms of quality and quantity. Third was the limited amount of time available, as the destruction had to be completed in 2 weeks. And fourth was the proper management of the available funds. Fieldwork lasted 15 days between 28th of November and 12th of December 2019, and was organized into three main phases. First, the removal of all of the superstructures, mechanical parts, fishing equipment, and part of the deck in order to expose the interior for recording. Second, the full recording of the vessel interior. And third, the removal of the characteristic parts of the vessel to be salvaged, and the finally destruction of the vessel. Prior to any destruction, The vessel was recorded with laser scanning, and a 3D model was created during the rescue mission in 2018. However, during the controlled destruction, the main objective was to dismantle the vessel under controlled conditions and in a way that allows and detailed recording. So 3 basic different recording phases were implemented. Phase A, before destruction, where a basic recording of the deck and the external parts of the hull, the superstructures and the rigging was done with conventional measurements, photographs, and laser scanning. Phase B, during destruction, where the internal hull, which had been exposed after the removal of the deck superstructures, the winch, the engine, as well as identified construction parts were with special characteristics, were recorded also with conventional measurements, photogrammetry, and laser scanning. Last, phase C took place after destruction and included the recording of the preserved hull components, the fishing gear, the processing of the digital data, and the execution of the final plans. One of the main concerns was the selection of the technical methods and tools that should be used for the dismantling, considering the limited time available and the distracting character of the project. 3 methods were used. First, the carefully dismantling of mechanical efficient equipment, as well as parts of the vessel, with the use of hand tools or electric cutting wheels for rusted bolts and joints. Second, cutting and removing wooden parts of the vessel with the use of chain saws. And third, breaking large parts of the vessel with the use of telescopic handler by either pushing or pulling. This method was mainly used during the last phase of destruction, where the remaining parts of the vessel were considered as disposal material. The first phase of the fieldwork included analytically the following. During the first 2 days, with the removal of the bridge, the wooden superstructures, the mast, the winch, and several characteristic metallic and wooden parts, including rigging and fishing equipment elements. The third day included the removal of the engine's cover, the engine, the propeller, and metallic reinforcing elements of the deck. And the next 2 days, the removal of the fuel tanks, the deck planks, and the deck beams at the engine room area, as well as the refrigerator, together with the deck planks and the beams at the hold area. The refrigerator was here at the hold, and it was mainly made by new type of materials like fiberglass and polystyrene. The main goal of the second phase of the destruction between December 4th and 8th was to record the internal area of the vessel, as well as the special structural elements and joints, which became accessible only after the completion of the first phase. During this phase, Dr. Kostas Damianidis and his team took all the necessary measurements in order to create the architectural plans of the vessel, applying conventional measurements. On December 6th and 8th, additional laser scanning was made by the Cyprus Institute members, while the cruise cabin at the bow of the vessel was also recorded in detail. In addition to the construction elements, special emphasis was also given on the ethnographic character or the ethnographic information of the vessel. And in this context, the cruise cabin in the bow was recorded in detail, where evidences of the life on board, such as coins, personal hygiene items, toys, recreational fishing items, etc., were identified, recorded, and carefully removed. A cubic meter of pedals used as ballast was also removed from the lower part of the cabin. Throughout the whole destruction process, The hull, together with the mechanical and fishing equipment, were photogrammetrically recorded as they were gradually exposed. Alongside the photogrammetric documentation of the interior sections and details, many measurements were taken with conventional methods, and before the final destruction, the hull was also recorded with laser scanning. Removing and salvaging characteristic parts of the vessel was a fundamental part of the program, and there was a dual purpose behind that. The parts, could be used both as exhibit of the local maritime ethnography and as educational material in the comprehension of the wooden shipbuilding craft of the Eastern Mediterranean. These parts were removed during the first phase and mainly during the third phase of the field work between December 9th and 12th. At the end of the field work, more than 100 construction parts of the vessel were selected to be salvaged. This included parts assemblies from different areas of the vessel, like the stern, the bow, the caprail, and the keel, internal characteristic structural parts, reinforcing elements, and sample pieces of the internal ceiling, the shell, and the skeleton. Most of the selected parts were carefully dismantled, but there were parts that had to be cut off with a chainsaw or to be violently detached with the use of a forklift. Besides, besides the structural elements, there were important finds which were collected. This included mechanical and fishing equipment, rigging components, personal belongings of the crew, and others. The selected parts were taken to the university's warehouse in Nicosia, and they will be maintained and recorded within the next phases of the program. Preserving all the parts of the vessel was obviously impossible due to their large quantity and size. At the same time, their storage was a major issue. On the other hand, the rejection of parts of the vessel was not a pleasant decision, but fortunately necessary. Thus, we decided to give priority to other ways of preservation, such as through the creative reuse of them. In the last 2 days, artists and furniture makers came to the site upon invitation and received recorded pieces of the vessel in order to prolong their lives in other ways. In this context, there is a desire to organize in the future an exhibition for works of art and constructions with raw materials from Agios Spyridон. The municipality of Polis Chrysouchous undertook the disposal of the remaining material, which mainly consisted of wood and metal. Other non-recyclable material like plastic, polystyrene, rubber, and others were disposed during the first phases of the destruction by an authorized company following the appropriate procedures. The program was promoted to the public and to the archaeological community as part of the effort of raising awareness around the protection and preservation of traditional boats, and not for obtaining and running similar programs in the future. To promote the program and share the progress of the destruction of the vessel with the public, a Facebook page was created and was being updated on almost a daily basis. The program was also promoted through articles which were published on social content websites, as well as in the local press. The public had also the opportunity to visit the site and learn about the program by talking to the participants and reading the project leaflets, which were especially designed for this purpose and were being disseminated during fieldwork. The digital preservation of the vessel was one of the main objectives. In order to have the best possible results, we followed the documentation methodology used during an underwater excavation. This meant cleaning, identifying, and tagging everything in situ, and then recording the different objects and structural parts of the vessel before dismantling and removing them. In the case of Agios Spyridон, understanding the vessel's construction process was essential in order to properly organize the documentation. Of primary importance was the process of identifying and correctly tagging every part for recording so that the codes and the unique numbers placed accurately and meaningful. For this purpose, before starting the project, bibliographic sources were studied in order to familiarize ourselves with the structural parts of the vessel. In addition to the structural parts, our catalog included the crew's personal belongings, fishing equipment, tools, and mechanical equipment as well. A total of almost 1,000 different structural elements, mechanical and fishing tools, as well as personal belongings were found, numbered, tagged, and removed. In this framework, photogrammetry proved to be very beneficial, as in combination with the laser scanning data, 3D digital models of high geometric quality from laser scanning and photorealistic texture from photogrammetry can be produced. The daily photographic documentation was carried out early in the morning or late in the afternoon, when the light conditions were the best. Throughout the destruction process, all parts of the vessel were photogrammetrically recorded as they were gradually revealed before being removed from the structure. Some parts, such as the underneath part of the deck, were impossible to be recorded on the vessel, and in such cases, the parts were photogrammetrically recorded after their removal and were digitally added to the 3D models afterward. Each night upon the team's return at the office, all the data and photos, between 1,000 and 3,000 photos every day, were stored and organized in the computer. High-resolution 3D models of each photographed area were then created using the Agisoft Metashape software, while high-resolution orthophotos were created at a later stage. In order to ensure sufficient documentation, the photographic processing was daily, while where necessary, the team took supplementary photos the next day. The volume of the digital material was very large, and its management and use has been a great challenge. During the followed semester, metadata added to photos, a glossary was compiled, and the project database was created using site recorded software. Site recorded its database geographic information system and a text and image management tool, which has been specifically designed and developed for maritime archaeology. All the photogrammetric data have been used in producing a high-quality virtual 3D reconstruction of the entire vessel. A close-range multi-image photogrammetric documentation was used to record the parts of the vessel during the pre-disturbance phase as they were exposed during its dismantling, while the exact stratigraphic sequence of the boat was reconstructed in the post-processing phase by matching the various recorded models. During this process, the laser scanning data was of essential importance, as the terrestrial laser scanning point cloud provided data for referencing the photogrammetric point cloud. Additionally, the produce allowed to combine when and where necessary the two point clouds, thus creating a fully integrate system of 3D recorded data. The image data capture was done with both single lens reflex and compact cameras, processed in Agisoft Metashade. For the laser scanner procedure, a terrestrial laser scanning was selected as the most effective method for recording the vessel's external and internal compartments. All morphological features were recorded during 2 campaigns, one during the pre-disturbance phase, and one before the final destruction, almost at the end of the project. The main objective was to enhance the first model with all the structural details that were exposed during the control dismantling and were not visible initially. The 4D database consisted respectively of 106 taken on March 2018 and 77 taken on December 2019 range maps. The aerial survey was performed by the Cyprus Institute and Manned Systems Research Laboratory using a drone. The final 4D models, today available on the ephemera database, were aligned in the same local reference system in order to first perform a multi-temporal comparison of the different epochs, second, analyze morphometric features of the lost structure, and third, extract architectural 2D drawings of the vessel. The 3D model of the vessel was blind in specific structural details due to the limited access in certain interior spaces. For these areas, mainly on the stern and the bow, the use of some conventional measurements for reporting method and the recording methods was necessary. The team of architects used printed 2D sections of the terrestrial laser scanning 3D model and filled by hand the structural details that were missing. Most of the conventional measurements were taken on the counter stand inside and outside the vessel and the interior space of the bow and at several sections of the middle part of the structure. Key structural details were recorded on these sections, such as the assembling of the frames, the resting of the beams on the clamps, and joining arrangements of the hanging needs. The conventional measurements, together with all the data from the 3D digital models, were used to produce architectural 2D drawings of the vessel. Here I present some of the basic construction dimensions and information as they were accurately recorded during the project. The overall length of the vessel was 23.88 meters. The length of the keel 18.8, the maximum breadth 6.16, and the midship height 3.26. The vessel had 49 frames, as you can see in the schedule, from the bow to the stern. They consisted mainly from 9 pieces each, including the floor timber and the top timber. The cross section of the double frames was approximately 12 to 24 centimeters, and the sinkhole 12 to 12 centimeters. The keel on most of the transversal sections had a cross section of about 17 to 18 centimeters high and 23 centimeters width. And the keelstone here had cross section of 28 centimeters height and 21 centimeters width on the middle of the vessel. Cross section of the deck beams was about 9 centimeters height and 15 to 28 centimeters width. and the deck planking had a thickness of 4.5 centimeters. There were 12 hanging nits on each side of the vessel beneath the deck, reinforcing the joints between some of the deck beams with the shelf clamps and the respective fattocks. Two main breast hooks were located on the bottom part of the bow and the stern, together with their legs here and on the other side here. They were made of natural curved wood with adequate ankles and lengths. The planking of the hull consisted of planks 5 to 5.5 centimeters thick. The elliptical stern of the vessel was rested on a heavy axial structural of the lower part of the stern. The stern post consisted of two vertical pieces that stood upon the rear end of the keel. Here, one. Aft of this stern post, the axial structural extended with 5 vertical pieces, and only the rear one was resting on an extension of the keel, which are these here, with the last one is coming here. And between the stern post and these vertical rear pieces, there was an opening for the placement of the propeller, as we can see here. Above the propeller opening, a wooden knee was fixed, and on the top of it, the rest of the vertical pieces. After this lower axial structure, there was the rudder pole and a metal rudder, supported by 2 metal stays bearings fastened on the axial structure here. The aftermost complete frame of the skeleton, together with 12 cant frames, which we can see here, and after the extension of the stern post, assembled the skeleton of the elliptical stern. All of them were resting on the lower axial structure of the stern, and that is described above. The cant frames were placed radially around the center that was located at the top. Yeah, they were around of the rear pieces of the axial structure of the lower stern. They were placed at almost equal intervals, which at their top averaged at 65 centimeters each. The spaces here. In the framework of the program, a seminar on documentation of maritime archaeology has been organized by Dr. Stella de Mestiha. The seminar is based on the data taken from the vessel Άγιος Σπυρίδων, and it took place for the spring semester 2019-20 as part of the class Shipwreck Archaeology, while postgraduate students of the master program, Field Archaeology on Land and Under the Sea, participated as well. Now, concluding, the dilemma between the conservation of a vessel in danger and its controlled destruction is not a simple one, especially because this is the last phase of the long history of vernacular wooden vessels in the Eastern Mediterranean. Their gradual decommission and the lack of new constructions deprives these boats of their ethnological, technological, and traditional context. No matter how extensively vessels are documented and studied, their withdrawal automatically removes an important part of the local cultural heritage stock. In balance, their protection and preservation allows for their recording and study and adds important chapters to the nautical history of the region. Preservation of large vessels on dry land, however, needs constant care and resources, otherwise it fails. Controlled destruction and full documentation is a mitigating solution if or when preservation fails. The Άγιος Σπυρίδων project tried to collect as much information as possible, but the physical remains of the boat are forever lost. The project followed the rescue excavation approach and tried to document pieces of the boat's technology, function, and biography, all recorded with multimodal digital recording. While usually archaeologists are trying to reconstruct a vessel from random preserved fragments, in this case, a methodology was developed to do effectively the opposite, meaning record the entire structure in 2 weeks and select sections and timbers to salvage that can make sense based on our previous recording of the vessel that is no more existing. With the completion of the basic phases of the program, the results were very encouraging. Despite the fact that the controlled destruction of the vessel was a not done before project, it was successfully completed thanks to good planning and the methodology followed. The recording of the vessel can be considered as absolutely successful as the shipbuilding technique and the operational information of the vessel were recorded to the maximum degree possible. This was achieved despite the rescue character of the project and the tight time frame. Using the obtained data and information, the biography of the vessel can be digitally reproduced in full and keep its place in the local maritime heritage. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Kostadina. It's an amazing project, and thank you very much for going through the whole thing in so much detail. It's amazing because you basically did an shipwreck excavation on land in that sense. Like, this controlled dismantling was so important to preserve, as you said, like both the technique but also like even the personal belongings. Like, you can tell from that process so much about the ship's life and use. So it's a really great project, and as you said, it was the first one done like this, and I think, as you said, it's very successful and maybe it should be adopted in more places as an idea. But I don't want to be talking too much. Maybe someone else has any specific questions or comments that they would like to ask Konstantinos.
Yes, of course.
Yes, thank you, Konstantinos, and thank you, Katerina, for this wonderful experience, for sharing all this unbelievable, amazing project with us. I think this will be a good pattern to follow what you did, your experience. If one can come across a similar boat to preserve, I think your effort will be a pattern to follow. So this is amazing work. I want to congratulate you for the work. I have a few questions for Konstantinos. If it's okay to
yes,
ask.
of course.
Yes, Katerina.
Thank you very much. First of all, Mr. Genser. Genscher.
Yes, thank you. First of all, this boat never sailed with sails, right? It was built to be propelled by an engine, isn't it, Konstantinos?
Yes, that's right.
But the original, if it wasn't an angel, can we assume that the original form would be for a sailboat, or do you think it has changed after the hull and certain shapes? after the insertion, after the engine arrival.
Okay. Of course, Mr. Kostas Damianidis will give us the exact answer, but in my opinion is that it belongs, the shape, it belongs mostly to the sailing vessels,
Yes.
and not so much to the engine vessels. The vessels used the engine for propulsion, as it's a very early vessel with engine. Is that right, Mr. Kostas?
Hi, I'm sorry for this going and coming back because of the electricity here was cut off, and so I had to change, and I attend a bit of the presentation by my mobile and other by my laptop. So the question about the shape of the hull of the ship, definitely the specific ship, the specific boat was built from the beginning as an engine boat. And the shape is it's very much like a sailing boat, because usually this kind of boats, trawlers, they had very huge, powerful engines.
Yes.
So they had to have a good shape for the for this power, and to be able to draw the nets behind, and all this effort that they put for many hours to drag the nets from the bottom.
Yeah.
The same hull, however, Karaboskara hull, was built in the past for sailing boats as well, and for traders. So the lines of the hull could be different, and differ a lot between the sailing and the training boats, traders, sorry. The sailing boats of Karaboskara were similar to this one that we saw this time. The traders were beamier boats with more hull, beamy hull to carry goods, and both of them in the past they were sailing boats. Now the Karaboskara they built, and the Karaboskara they built from the middle of the 20th century on, there were boats, engine boats, and especially the trawlers were boats with deep draught and capable to get powerful engines, and to have a great speed and a great power to draw the nets. I don't know if that was exactly the comment on the question of Genser, but anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Costa. Mr. Gencher, did you take the answer?
Yes, it was very, I was also expecting similar things, and Kostas made it very clear. I was also asking what kind of, myself, the boat has a quite high hull, and in order to draw, like Kostas said, trolling the nets needed also high power with the sails. So and the beautiful hull also reminds the time of it was used for as a sailing vessel, and it's very beautiful hull. And also what's interesting, a lot of round forms at the stern and at the bow, And at the time where there were no chemicals for doing laminated wooden work, I was so impressed by the amount of work of making so round shapes by massive wood. That's also amazing carpentry and boat building technique, which we don't have anymore, unfortunately. We have a lot of wooden boat constructed in Turkey as well, but it's all laminated wood. So I assume in Agios Spyridon was all massive wood, isn't it?
Yes. For the construction of the vessel, it was used only massive wood, except of the superstructures, which they were made of plywood.
Yes.
But these were mainly used during maintenance later on. Most probably they would they must used from the beginning massive wood as well, planks, but by the years they changed it. I don't know if Mr. Costas agree. Did in 1950s used plywood for
not really, not in 50s. There were not so much plywood in 50s. There were mainly natural woods, naturally carved. They take advantage of the very peculiar tracks of trees, curved tracks, and they use them in the specific places where they like to have curved timbers.
So most probably our maintenance.
Later on, yes.
After
yes. What I like to point out, to pinpoint in this presentation is the very sad situation of subsidized destruction of fishing boats. That was the case of Άγιος Σπυρίδων too. However, the Cypriot authorities, they managed to keep alive the boats without to destruct it. And the municipality promised to restore and to maintain the boat. However, the municipality didn't succeed for this. But in Greece, at least, we have still this law for destruction of fishing boats, and this is very sad. And we like to fight for this and to say that we don't accept anymore subsidized destruction of fishing boats anywhere.
Costa, as a question that I have, do you think that this sort of controlled destruction could be done in Greece in the cases that the subsidies continue, or if that would be something that municipalities or local communities would consider to fund or do?
As far as I know, the law from the European Union is still existing. Exist, and so if the Greek authorities, they like to open again the program of subsidized destruction, they can do it.
Yeah, but they wouldn't allow archaeologists to intervene before the destruction, for example, like it happened with this case.
No, that's very expensive thing,
yeah,
for every fishing boat.
That's true.
The last time, 4 or 5 years ago, they were approved 700 boats to be destructed, subsidized for the destruction. So the numbers are enormous to make work like this, like Άγιος Σπυρίδων. And of course, I'm not sure if the future of all these boats is a good recording and nothing more. I mean, you don't preserve the boat, you don't keep the boat alive, but you keep the drawings and the photographs. This is not the future that we like for the traditional boats in Greece.
Totally, yeah. But as a project, it's amazing that like the whole team did that, because it's a good example of how, like, even if something, it's what Kostadino said, like a rescue excavation. If something has to go, it's better be recorded first, and then it is preserved in some ways. It can be studied again or reconstructed again.
Yeah, it's the last choice we have.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's not something that we want to keep us a regular process. We want to avoid it anyway, but it's the last choice. If you are going to lose a boat, I think
yes,
that
of course.
should be.
I think first you have to fight not to lose the boat, and then if it's unavoidable, then you make the best to record the boat. Recording the boat is not a bad thing, it's a very good thing. And we need to have boats recorded, like the one in Agios Spyridон. And that's exactly what we try to do here in the museum in Samos. And perhaps Stavroulakis can tell us more about this, but we try to find out solutions to digitally record the traditional boats with easier and fast ways and not so expensive, in order to enrich our data and our knowledge on traditional boats in Greece. But this is another thing, it is a good thing, and we cannot say that because we record the boats, we can subsidize their destruction. This is unacceptable.
Totally, yeah, of course.
Can I ask Konstantinos a question? Hi, it's a very
Hello.
nice talk. Thank you for this. Did you, following on that thought, did you calculate how much it cost to save the boat in this way?
To preserve it as it was.
For your job, I mean the whole project, how much do you think it cost to do this controlled destruction and documentation?
Okay. It costs around 40,000 euros. Around 40,000. We had funding from the Honor Frost Foundation. It was 28,200, and also 5,000 from the municipality, and I think that we had some more, and I think it costs around 40,000, around there.
So it's about.
Sorry, Petros. Konstantinos, that was included the work of the boat builders to destroy and to cut the boat, and not only the recording process, it's the digitizing.
Yes, I think everything costs around there, but one of the main problems is that you need to have place for the parts that you save, because it's a lot of space. We used the whole a whole warehouse, a very large warehouse of the university, and except of that, we need now to maintain the parts that are left behind. I think that after the controlled destruction, you need to start a new program for
maintaining
the use of the rest of the parts that you left back, because we want to make them an exhibition for, as I said to the presentation, an exhibition for the public, for researchers, and to do that, you need, of course, more money.
And one more question: how much was the EU subsidy to destroy the boat? Do you know?
The EU.
Yeah, how much did the EU pay for destroying the boat?
I don't know how much it was. We can learn, but this has to do with the Department of Fisheries and Marine Research and the owner of the vessel.
I'm just asking because I think it's about the same amount of money.
Yes, something like that. I think
No,
so.
no.
That, for this vessel, it must be much more for these vessels, isn't it?
No, I think for this length of the vessel and this power of the vessel, the subsidies from the EU is about 30,000 million euros.
How much?
30,000 euros. 30,000 euros.
So about 10 times more than is required for its preservation.
Most probably. 400 are, 40,000 are most probably for small vessels, for fishing boats, small fishing boats.
So in a sense, it could be in a perfect world, a legal requirement from that subsidy, if it were to still exist, to cut the 1/10, for example, to preserve the boat, for example.
This is my
Yeah.
where I was going with this. So
yeah, it's a very good point.
maybe the EU, instead of paying only for the destruction, they cut 10% and they give it for preservation as well, or they add 10% to it. I don't think they will do it, but it's a good point if we can push to that direction.
It's not a matter of money. I mean, it is. I think it's a wrong approach to see the problem only with the value of the boat and the destruction. And I mean, where is the cultural value of this? And I mean, you need this kind of boats to have it alive and in the sea, sailing.
Not just also on a beach or in a museum, yeah.
And not as a part of it, not in several parts. Although there are more important parts and more boring parts, but you need all together, I think. It is like to have a windmill in the country and to save some pieces of it and not all of it.
Yes. Sorry, Kostas, how much did you say? I didn't get this number. 30,000 or 300,000?
300,000, right?
300,000 euros.
300,000, sorry, yes, 300,000.
300,000 euros EU pays for this boat.
For the destruction, for the, this is not only for the boat, it is for the license, of the fishing license and the destruction of the boat.
This is amazing how much they pay for a wooden boat. There is no way to convince the owners not to destroy for such money. It's a fortune, I think.
Exactly, yes.
Can I add something, Mr. Kostas? Because we usually say that European Union created that law for the withdrawing. throw of the vessels such a way with destruction. But I think that we are part of them. We have our presence.
A responsibility, yes, of course.
Yes, in the European Union, and we should ask our politicians to do something. But I think
you're absolutely right.
Yes, because it's the same with us, with you, with Greece, the same with Italy. I think that it's the easy way for the politicians to find a solution, destroy them, and we finish. And when we try to do something with last time that they withdrew vessels in Cyprus in 2015, the Department of Fisheries was not at the beginning acceptable of our opinion. They wanted to, they didn't, I don't say that they were against us, but they were not so much with us. They should be.
They were not convinced that
that was a good solution. I'm not talking officially, but after we saved them, they had the opinion that it was the right thing to do. But before, they were not. They're having a different, I think, opinion.
Let me ask another question. If you wanted to save this boat completely and restructure it for the sea, do you know, so that it can go back into the sea, how much would it require for renovation?
Yes, we have another similar case now in Limassol. There is another boat, the Lambusa, which has exactly the same size, and it's in a better condition, but in a bad, generally speaking, condition. And the municipality of Limassol now is trying to reconstruct it, to preserve it, and it will cost, I think, around 700,000 plus VAT.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
A lot of money.
But if you have a business case for what you're going to do afterwards, so let's say you put that money front and you get it back somehow by reconstructing it, then it closes the loop. So it allows for a motivation for someone to invest in saving the boats. So I think that we have to figure out what is the next step, how this boat can make the money back from its investment of saving it.
If there's no other competition in the sea, and the traditional boats were a primary thing for most of the islands, for example, in the Aegean, I think the competition and the money would be earned back. It's just like that there's no incentive to work with these boats anymore. And that's why they do the subsidies, even though environmentally and based on the UN right now, the small boats should be preserved and bigger entities should go and be subsidized. So like there's this crazy, even in financial terms and environmental terms, things happening. Even like the culture heritage is very important, but these boats could be preserved if the subsidies actually happened for the destructive assets, which are not the traditional boats. At least that's from my research point of view.
I see. So there's no other way to reuse it so that it can make, not by fishing, so it's competitive to the big fishers, trawlers, but any other method we can think of making a profit so that people can, you know, use it in a different way.
We have similar boats used for recreational trips with tourists, like this one that I show here, which is a Caravoscaro, the same type of vessel, the same size, and it is used for tourist trips. And it was a trawler as well, this type of boat, and it's still in use. The only way I think to be used is that way, but I think they have no motivations to proceed in such uses. I don't know, and according to the European law that they have to withdraw the vessels, it cannot be used either except of educational purposes, if I remember well. Isn't it like that, Mr. Kostas?
Yes, it is like this. What I'd like to say is that the cultural value is not always being measured by a profit. So there is no question if we can have a good profit of these things, then we can keep them alive. Yes. The other thing is that it is another thing to leave something to die, and another thing to give money, a lot of money, to distract something that is not the problem of the thing that you like to solve. I mean, the actual boat is not the problem of overfishing. They use the boats for the overfishing, but the problem is the people, the fishermen, or at least the gear for fishing. And in this case, the fisherman is not allowed to fish for 5 years after these subsidies. He can sell all the gear and the engine of the boat, and the only thing that is forced to do is to distract the boat, only the boat. It is a mad thing, and I think it is something that we have to stay against without asterisks and without any proposition for profits, for profits use of the boats. There is no this point. The other thing I like to say is that the European Union is not the only funder of the program. It is 70% or 80% funding the distraction. The other 20% is national funds. And the European Union is not the body that decides which boat will be distracted and which not. This is and it's not the body that opened the program. The national governments open the programs. They are not forced to do that. They have the possibility from the European Union to do that. They don't force to do that. They are their own decision to open the program and to subsidize distraction of boats. And this is exactly what Greece done in 2017 and 18, I think. And that time, that was the last time, about 700 boats were distracted, subsidized distracted through this program.
Yes, I agree, Kostas, but we have to give them an alternative of what we're going to do with them, or else they will not. They will not.
No, I don't agree with you. We don't give them an alternative.
Yes.
We don't give money to smash the boats. This is the first thing. We don't give money to smash the boats. This is a bad attitude, to give money to destroy something. This is not the right.
Then what? But then you have to answer to them. What are you going to do with it if you don't smash it?
There are a lot of possibilities, and if he likes to smash the boat, it is his own decision and his own expenses to do that, not the authorities. The authorities, they are not allowed to give money for smashing traditional things. I think this is my approach. So we can find out ways to make the boats usable, to use them in different ways. It's not all the time the tourism that you can use the boat. There are several other uses that you can use. It depends on the size, it depends on the type of the boat, depends on the ability to sail or to have engines. It's not a problem of give them the solution to use all these boats in tourism. But the problem is that you cannot, in a modern society, in a civilized society, it's not worth to give money to destroy things that they made by hands, very famous and capable craftsmen. This is not the attitude. It's not an auto car, a car that is built in thousand of similar and mechanical way. It's every one of these boats is a unique boat made by hands, and it is a shame to destroy, to give money for the destruction of it.
It's like giving money to destroy an ancient vase or a painting or something to empty space in the storage of a museum, for example, which that cannot be happening.
Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so this cannot be happening.
Okay, thank you. I have to leave. Sorry, I'm out of
Of course.
the program. Thank you. It was nice to see you. Thank you, Kostadinos. That was very good presentation as far as I was able to attend.
Thank you too.
And keep going and keep preserving as much boats as you can.
Yes.
Okay, I thank you all.
Thank you, Kostadin, again. Thank you very much for this
First of
amazing
all,
seminar.
Katerina,
Ευχαριστώ πολύ.
for the invitation. And I hope you enjoyed it.
Of course, it was great. Thank you very much. And the talk is going to be on YouTube, so anyone who missed it or wants to watch it is going to be in the Society's YouTube channel.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
I will listen it again because I missed some parts.
Yes.
Of course.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Bye, everyone. Thank you very
Bye.
much for
Bye.
attending.
Bye bye. Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye bye bye.
Thank you.
Ευχαριστώ πολύ, Κωνσταντίνε, πάλι.
Και εγώ ευχαριστώ, Κατερίνα.